good men gone, and where are all the gods?
Gang, there's just no better way to begin a classic video essay on an animated movie than by quoting a line from a random famous actor, or in this case, Donnie Yen, who said that whenever I'm acting it or making it, at the end of the day, it's about telling the story, the action, or the drama. You want the audience to feel it. It's the idea of crafting a scene, whether it be climactic or not, that demonstrates a perfect understanding of the specific idea or theme that it's trying to convey and express. Now, let's just dump the whole non-climactic version of this topic, because that's not what we're going to be discussing in this one. A lot of the time, the most simple scene placed right in the middle or towards the beginning of a movie can and will get the audience hooked on one or more things within said movie. However, it's much more common within the industry for the ending or the climax of a movie to be considered its most important, recognizable, meaningful, engaging, significant, influential, central, consequential, special, sentimental. Landing the perfect climax or ending within a movie is so necessary for a number of reasons. One could be because these final moments are what the audience leaves with, and often what they remember most from the movie that they were watching. However, another reason is because the finale is 95% of the time what a movie has been building towards across its entire runtime. This is crucial because those watching will expect something from the movie that somehow is able to connect almost everything that has happened thus far in the movie leading up to this point. It is usually the most important moment in the entire film. And I believe that one of the best examples of utilizing a climax to its fullest potential in order to hook the audience to an insane level of engagement due to whatever is happening on screen to hook said audience can be found in the I Need a Hero sequence at the end of Shrek 2. Let's start off right from the beginning. So the movie picks up right where the first film left off, simultaneously making it a perfect continuation of its predecessor. Shrek and Fiona have just gotten married, as shown at the end of the first film, so I think it was a genius idea to have the movie open during their honeymoon, and then very soon getting back from the honeymoon. The music choice for the sequence, Accidentally in Love, was made specifically for Shrek 2, and was a really good opener. It addresses what happened in the last movie with the growing romance between the two, that they accidentally fell in love. But it also recognizes one of the most important things to remember regarding Shrek's character. A few good times in the sequence, Shrek and Fiona would be shown getting chased or hunted or screamed at by humans, and even though the vibe is all romantic and lighthearted, there is still a darker undertone to what is happening. Shrek may have Fiona's love along with Donkey, Gingy and all the other fairy tale creatures, but that doesn't mean that he's necessarily loved by everyone. Human society still has a strong grudge against him, and still ultimately expresses open rejection and hatred towards him. Because of humanity's unacceptance, Shrek has had to be content with living a life of solitude and loneliness. He has had to realize that he just doesn't fit in with anyone else, and for that exact reason, he was all alone for so long. Until Donkey and Fiona came along, and they accepted him, and yet society continues to despise Shrek, which has eventually caused him to see them as being completely hostile all the time, which is definitely justified considering how they've treated him all these years. And this is all confirmed in a scene soon after the Accidentally in Love sequence, when the messengers from far, far away show up to the swamp. You can instantly tell that Shrek is feeling very uncomfortable with them being there, and you can even kind of see him being somewhat offended. Sorry, that isn't the right word. Somewhat antagonized by this weird presence. There's that one moment in this scene where the main messenger man reads aloud a letter sent from the royals, and the words Prince Charming were used to describe Fiona's husband, only for the messenger man to look up from the message and see Shrek's face. Let me play the moment for you to see for yourself.
Upon you and your, Prince Charming.
It is very clever how the movie contrasts the words Prince Charming with Shrek. Shrek doesn't even slightly look like your typical Prince Charming, and that is expressed very accurately through this subtle moment. Another moment that demonstrates society's inexcusable hostility towards Shrek is when they are first seen by the citizens of Far, Far Away and by Fiona's parents. This is going to be a long one. The scene is built up well by having the three, Shrek, Fiona, and Donkey, in the carriage first entering the city. It's big. Really big. So many people are walking by, so many different massive billboards, so many shops and stores. I mean, come on, they've got 2 different Farbucks cafes right across the street from each other. Why? Anyways, the city is big and very high profile compared to the carriage in which the 3 protags reside. In a way, the outside is unsafe. And yes, hostile, whereas the safety of the carriage makes Shrek feel much more secure. A few citizens notice the carriage and realize that it must be Fiona and her new husband, so they follow the carriage to the castle area, not knowing that it's filled to the brim with ogres and a talking donkey. By the time that they get to the castle entrance, they've pretty much got half the city right behind them. Then they go in, and there's the other half. This is clearly a very big thing. The king and queen's daughter is returning from being locked up in a tower half her life, and as the carriage comes around to the center where they will soon get out, we see Fiona's parents, Harold and Lillian. Everything has led up to this point. There is a big 10-second build-up as they begin to open up the carriage. Everyone is watching and bracing for the moment. The stakes are high, the tension is high, Donkey is high. The 3 of them step out of the carriage and everything suddenly stops in its tracks. Well, you know, besides from a bird that was too busy staring at them and flew into a wall and died. Every single person that is in sight is just in utter shock, and the parents are definitely the most confused by all of this. I mean, of course, when Shrek and Fiona walk down the red carpet towards the king and queen, you see a ton of hostility coming from those in the crowd, and there is just so much tension here. It doesn't do Fiona and especially Shrek any favors, as it is when they actually talk to the parents. Even just the way that they look at Shrek, it's like they're trying to let him know that they disapprove of him being with their daughter. This is also very present in the dinner table scene straight after, where it goes from complete silence to Harold and Shrek getting in an argument and Fiona leaving the table. It's once again kept all lighthearted and fun throughout, but there's just so much subtle sadness in these scenes because of the clearly awful and unfair way that society is still treating Shrek. The first movie ended and it was really nice. You just expect everything to be right as rain, but not everything is. People still don't accept Shrek. And it's not like he's dumb. Shrek knows that everyone hates him, and that's why he is so cautious across this entire movie. He understands the risk that he and Fiona are taking by going to meet her parents, and as much as Fiona tried to encourage him and motivate him to come because they will love you, Shrek was indeed correct the entire time. They don't love him, and they certainly don't like or respect or accept him. Even his in-laws disapprove. The people who he's meant to be most accepted by. They just think of him as some big, ugly, green Illuminations, the Grinch-like beast. I'll talk more about the fairy godmother very soon because she is just as important in terms of the hostility idea, don't you worry. So yeah, anyway, the fact that Shrek was in fact right about Harold and Lillian's perspective towards him was a complete shattering in the heart for Fiona. And admittedly, Shrek didn't exactly act that much nicer towards them, so he's not fully in the right here. He did react to this situation quite harshly towards Fiona. Sure, the dinner table was heated, but I think this argument shortly after between them really breaks your heart. Fiona tries so hard to be neutral here, making it known to Shrek that even though the parents were very hard on him, he definitely could have handled the situation better, but Shrek thinks otherwise. He is convinced that this is just typical human behavior towards him, and that the parents deserve to be spoken back to like that. Shrek knows that they don't like him because of the blatant fact that he is an ogre. He knows that they wished he was, in their eyes, normal. And he's taking all of his frustrations out on Fiona. And even though he certainly loves her, his point that everyone is against him, even the king and queen of Far, Far Away, has just been confirmed to Fiona. He is an ogre, and he can't change that. Fiona leaves the room, but before she does, she says one final thing.
I've made changes for you, Shrek. Think about that.
Wow. It's tremendously sad how the relationship between Shrek and Fiona looks at this point. And like, sure, it was just one argument, you could say, but really think about it. There is a confirmation that the king and queen don't like Shrek, Harold more so, but it's pretty clear that Lillian doesn't love him, even though she does at content. Fiona is mad at her parents because they won't accept Shrek. Harold and somewhat Lillian are mad at her for marrying an ogre instead of the prince who they personally had in mind, who I will get to shortly. They are also mad at Shrek because of who he is, and Shrek in turn is mad at Fiona for dragging him into this situation of humiliation. Now, let me introduce a specific word that puts all the conflicts and all the setup in motion. Change. This is one of, if not the most important word in this entire video. So, Shrek, Fiona, and the parents are all mad at each other because of the clear situation they've all been put in. But then along comes an idea. A very unique idea. And that idea is called the fairy godmother. Change is everything in this world. It can be used to mix things up for better or worse, but a lot of the time, change can be such a personal thing. It may be something that we have to do in our lives, whether it be travel to live in a different country, losing someone that you were close to and having to deal with the repercussions of that loss, or even changing yourself for the sake of those around you, even if it may not be what you want for, well, you. And that's what happened with Shrek in this movie. Fiona's family are racist, which puts Shrek in a pretty bad position, but then, out of the blue, the fairy godmother comes along. Her first scene with Fiona and eventually Shrek is kept rather innocent, but once Fiona introduces Shrek as her husband, something about the vibe changes. It's clear that she's agitated about something and leaves in a hurry. Then, after Shrek and Fiona's big spaz once she is gone, and a little complaining from Harold to Lillian when he overhears the arguing and sees it as an opportunity to be a racist, the fairy godmother shows up and takes Harold away to talk. It's revealed that her son, Prince Charming, was actually meant to marry Fiona, and this was an agreement that was between the fairy godmother and Harold. This deal was all going according to plan right up until Shrek came along and ruined everything. By marrying Fiona, Shrek basically just wrecked the plan. So now we know why the very kind lady has beef with Shrek. Speaking of which, the very next morning after getting lost in the woods with Donkey and meeting some cat you've probably never heard of, Shrek realizes that there might be a solution to all his problems surrounding the royals. There's one line where he openly admits that if he could change for Fiona, then he would. He finds out that the fairy godmother makes potions for almost anything, one of which giving whoever drinks it and their significant other a happily ever after. They do some shenanigans and get the potion which turns Shrek and Fiona into humans overnight. Now let us talk about what Shrek is doing. Ever since the argument between him and Fiona, all that Shrek has been wanting to do was just make Fiona happy, and he didn't care what that meant. He figured that since her parents don't like him, then maybe she'll eventually turn against him. She'll put her family first, which could lead to him losing her. He's afraid that Fiona may fall in love with this Prince Charming guy or anyone who he believes is better than him. He's afraid that he would lose everything. So he decides to change himself for her. He thinks that if he becomes this supposed perfect human prince figure, then she would want to stay with him and it would ultimately make her happy. He sacrifices his own physical identity just for her, and unsurprisingly, everyone seems to love him. They wave at him on the streets and people actually acknowledge him in a really good and kind way. But at the center of it all, it's this undeniably selfless act of love that Shrek is doing for Fiona. Like how she said right before she walked out the door, Shrek has now made changes for her as well. He wants to make her happy, and he believes that the only way to not lose her is by changing himself to better fit the knight in shining armor that she had envisioned her entire life, and what he knows her parents would prefer. But before they can see each other and Shrek can explain everything, the fairy godmother and Charming beat him to her. They trick Fiona into believing that Charming is the new Shrek, and Shrek watches as Fiona solemnly believes Charming. He initially tries to budge and stop it, but the fairy godmother manipulates him into accepting the cold, hard reality that no matter how much he changes, he will always be an ogre on the inside, and Fiona will always be a princess. She tells him that if he really wants what is best for Fiona, then he should let her go. And he is content. He quits trying to believe that he can make her happy and accepts the notion that since he is an ogre, Shrek just isn't good enough. So he leaves. That's not the ending we were expecting, huh? Well, we'll see about that. A bit of a plot dump. Once Shrek leaves with Donkey and Puss, they're in a bar and sulking when Shrek notices Harold. He sees him going into a room where the fairy godmother and Charming are sitting, so he creeps around the side and overhears them talking about Fiona and Charming stuff, that she isn't exactly warming up to him. Fairy godmother gives Harold a potion and forces him to have Fiona drink it. Spoiler? It's a love potion, and once she drinks it, then she will fall in love with the first man that she kisses. Okay, boom. The stakes are clear. Shrek knows that Harold is going to give Fiona the potion, to which Charming will kiss her and make her fall in love. He has to stop this kiss. Plan ready in action. But before he can leave, they're all seen spying on the conversation and they end up in prison. Okay, this is bad. So there is meant to be this big ceremony party thing on that same night where Harold will bestow his blessing upon Fiona's new husband. Pre-game, Harold slips her the potion in a drink, and Charming plus Fairy Godmother arrive at the party all dressed up. And lastly, Shrek, Donkey, and Puss are in jail. But then, the others show up, as in Gingy, Pinocchio, the pigs, the three blind mice, and that really funny wolf that, he's cool. Yeah, turns out they saw Shrek on TV earlier getting arrested and somehow got to far, far away in like an hour, even though it took the three main protags entire days and nights. They probably just used Pinocchio's nose and got it to grow really long, but I'm just spitballing here. So the gang is released and they watch the ceremonial lights in the far distance as they begin to come up with a plan. Shrek has realized that what's truly important to him is Fiona. He's not going to let these people just take her away from him. He has been reminded of what's most important to him. He knows what he has to do in order to make things right. He's gonna stop that kiss.
I'd like to dedicate this song to Princess Fiona and Prince Shrek.
I mean, I had a big 15-minute section prepared for this one scene, but looking over what I had planned, it's just so dragged out and repetitive, and you'll definitely get bored before the first minute is over. So I decided to cut it and just do something cleaner and less forced. So, this scene is phenomenal. The way that this scene must be constructed is more than crucial to put the quote that I said at the very beginning of the video into play. Let me go over it again in case you forgot. Whether I'm acting it or making it, at the end of the day, it's about telling the story, the action or the drama. You want the audience to feel it. Feel it. That is what is most essential, that the audience can feel the emotions, the tension, and the overall tone right alongside these characters. It is a very difficult thing to do. In order to accomplish this, the scene has to be pretty much perfect. It has to be able to address everything that it wants to across its runtime and hook us as the viewer. And that is exactly what this scene does. It makes us feel everything. So for starters, the objectives are clear and precise. Charming is going to kiss Fiona to make her fall in love with him, and Shrek and the gang have to break into the castle to stop them from doing so. As for the scene itself, it begins rather tame and calm. Actually, no, it's not. The protags have got a way in, and it's not some elaborate plan that took ages to construct. No. They're going to use a giant gingerbread man named Mongo that was made with the help of the Muffin Man to break into the castle by force. So they're speeding up the hill as fast as possible while the party on the inside of the castle is looking kinda mid. The classical music ain't it, chief. Fiona doesn't look comfortable and Charming doesn't have enough riz. It looks like she's gonna leave, so the fairy godmother starts to sing. The lyrics that she sings are exceptionally crafted to fit what's actually going on in this scene. Where have all the good men gone, and where are all the gods? Come on, man. The crowd chants for Fiona to come back and dance with Charming, and so they do so. The fairy godmother rolls around on the piano that's playing as we slowly zoom into her, and then everything erupts. Here it is, the scene has gone from 0 to 100. The pressure is on. Shrek and the others reach the castle gates with guards at the ready. Just before the gates can be fully closed, however, Mongo is able to get his hands to block it from shutting completely. While the guards are trying to take Mongo down before he can get Shrek and that in, Fiona and Charming dancing is becoming more and more tense. There is that tiny little feeling that Fiona is now beginning to warm up to him, but only a little. No time can be wasted now. On a second attempt, the guards are able to take down Mongo, which for some reason I'm so invested in. I was outright yelling at my TV when he went down. Such a loss. But Shrek is able to just squeeze through in time, and the editing in this moment where they go to a split-second close-up shot of him going through before cutting back to a full shot of him, that's just excellent subtle editing. Shrek drops the gates for everyone and they hurry inside. They jump over several guards on their way in. Like, what? At some point while they're going through the halls, Puss jumps off to fight the guards so that Shrek doesn't get caught before he can even reach Fiona, which also gets me weirdly invested to an insane degree. And as Fiona and Charming look like they're about to kiss, Shrek storms in riding Donkey just in time. The scene itself is just so much adrenaline. The tension and stakes are both really high. The shots and editing are expertly crafted to create such a snappy scene. The lyrics and vocals are on another level, as well as enhancing what the point of this scene is. Fiona needs a hero, and even though the fairy godmother is directing the hero statement towards Charming, we as the audience know and believe that the true hero here is Shrek. There's so many highlights to this scene, just so much great stuff. Like, why am I getting so invested in Mongo's sacrifice? Why am I getting so invested in Puss deciding to repay his debt at the moment where Shrek needs him to do so most? It's just, wow. But it's why this scene exists in the first place that I think makes it so undeniably perfect. From the beginning of the movie, Shrek showed a sense of immense vulnerability to the audience without even being able to express it. He knew from the very moment that the messengers showed up and told them about Far, Far Away that he was going to be in for some truly agonizing days ahead. And I'm not just talking about the ride. He knew that everyone would hate him, especially the royals. He gets nervous a lot of the time because he expects people to just chase after him with their pitchforks. And even though Fiona says that the parents will still love him for who he is, nope, Shrek was right all along. They disapprove and won't accept him with open arms like Fiona said and hoped. Shrek takes all of his insecurities and problems here out on her, only for Fiona to remind him of how she made sacrifices and changes for him. So, what did he do? He changes his entire physical identity and appearance just for Fiona, which ends up majorly backfiring due to the fairy godmother and Prince Charming beating him to her. He's eventually manipulated into believing that since Charming is this picture-perfect figure that Fiona always wanted before Shrek, then maybe that's what's best for her. He walks away, but then he remembers that no, what is really the right thing to do for Fiona is to stop her parents and the villains from practically forcing her to stay with this fake person. He decides that what's most important to him is her. And that is what leads us to one of the greatest climaxes in any movie. Then there's the final decision that Fiona makes once the clock strikes 12. Shrek literally tells her that even though he's already shown his dedication and love towards her, so much so that he changed into human form so that he can look more normal and respected and liked, he is willing to stay as a human with her until the day they die because he loves and cares for her so much that he'll do that. He will change. And yet, Fiona decides that she wants to love and care for and grow old with the man she married, the ogre. Not the beautiful prince that she's been longing for all her life. She wants the beautiful ogre, Shrek. It all feels so real. The anxiety and loneliness of emotional harmfulness from what feels like everyone can easily lead to the self-emotional harmfulness of yourself. You'll hear what people say about you, whether it be to your face or behind your back, and you may take what they say on board. You may pick it up and carry it as a burden for your entire life, not feeling truly happy with yourself because you've believed what others have said about you. But despite all that, Despite all the pain and misery that life will throw at you, you will always be loved and valued in this world. There is no unimportant or filler person. We were all put here with equal dignity and love owed to us. We are all deserving of love. And as much as the world will try to take that love away from you, chase after it and never let it go. Because believe it or not, you are a hero.